Right. Clay, do you want to get us rolling?
Sure.
I'm going to share the deck as soon as we're ready.
All right, so my name is Clay Purvis. I'm the Director for Telecommunications and Connectivity with the state of Vermont. We're here to have a public hearing on the public comments draft of the 10-year telecom plan. We have with us Matt Dunn and Alex Kelly from our consultant, Randy, and they are here to give a short presentation on the plan, and then we'll take public comment. But until we have a greater audience, I think we should hold off. We'll wait for about 10 more minutes until we have a group to discuss.
So Clay, you would like to wait 10 minutes before we start, or?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Oh, it's fine. Do you need to give me permission to share my screen, Clay?
I don't think so. There's a little icon at the top, up arrow, that should allow you to share your screen. It's between the.
Yep, I see it. I don't, but when I click it, it just shows a. I mean, unless you're my screen now.
Let me see. Hold on. Matt, I've changed you from participant to attendee, which sounds like a demotion. See if you can share it now.
Yes, and it says I can't share.
All right, now I'm going to make you a presenter.
Okay.
Now you should be able to present.
So oddly, when I click the thing, it makes it look like it might be presenting, but Alex, you can't see my presentation.
No, but it looks like I can share screen. So whatever my attendee or participant level is seems to be working.
Can you fully share your screen? I can also duck. Yeah. I can log off and log back on. So let me try that.
Okay.
Right. AK, I may need to have you share your screen and I'll just follow along as we go. I'm not sure what.
Okay, yeah, let me pull it up. Hold on.
What the glitch is in Microsoft Teams. Look at that. Do a tag team. And you just clicked on the open share tray thing, and that's what is there? That's what I usually do, but it did not.
Yeah, you've done it before on Teams, so.
Yeah, I don't understand. Well, it's fine.
Well, Matt, we could do one of two things. You could run through the presentation, which we can then post on our website and reschedule the meeting, or we could simply reschedule the meeting for next week.
I can do a very quick walkthrough, and if our participant has any questions, happy to answer them, and then we can. But also happy to schedule another one. I think.
Yeah, I think we should schedule a second one.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's do that, and let's aim for a time that perhaps will work for people in the evening.
Yeah, that's a smart idea.
Okay. All right, so we'll just walk through this quickly to do a quick dry run, or dry run, a real run. Alex, if you can advance things along, that would be great. So just so everyone knows, this is the draft of the 10-year telecommunication plan that we at Rural Innovation Strategies, Inc., and in collaboration with CTC Technologies, put together on behalf of the Public Service Commission to be able to provide a trajectory for our state in developing the next decade of telecommunication infrastructure. So we want to start off with a unique piece to this report, which is that we are in a time unlike any that I can certainly remember, where the focus on the importance of telecommunications is front and center, and with it, unprecedented resources to be able to actually tackle the broadband gap once and for all. There are currently 47,000 premises that lack a wired 25.3 megabits per second service, which is the traditional cable level of broadband connectivity, and what the FCC determines as served. And in order to deliver 100 over 100 fiber to the home service to those individuals, to really leapfrog technologies into something that is future-proof, will cost between, our estimate is between $360 million and $440 million. And the ARPA stimulus money presents a really unique opportunity to make a dent in delivering fiber to the home in those communities, and we don't want anyone to miss that. And that moment certainly guided the recommendations that we were making. But the final point that I will make is that speed is of the essence. That everyone in the country is getting resources of this magnitude, is feeling the pain of a broadband gap, and if we are going to be able to ensure that Vermonters get this connectivity and get it quickly, we have to move fast as a state. So with that context, we're going to talk, the draft plan gets into a few areas. I'm just going to quickly go through them. We do encourage people to actually read the plan, at least the pertinent sections, the areas that they're interested in, and provide feedback. We will be taking this feedback and then using that in our next iteration and creating a final draft for the state. But a couple of principles that we've focused on, which was to invest efficiently, which means to focus on those premises that are not served by wireline 25/3 service. The second is to promote long-term resilient solutions, which just about everyone agrees is a fiber to the home type of solution, but also to embody Vermont values and make sure that community input is front and center along with consumer interests. The draft plan looks at both the incredible opportunities that are with us today, but also some of the challenges for broadband deployment. And you know, the state has been on a really nation-leading trajectory to understand the broadband gap and to find creative ways for solving it. But other external factors have come in and making it complicated, including the RDOF subsidy, the reverse auction that just has made it complicated for communication union districts to plan where they would build to. There is a huge, there's a labor shortage now, even before we get started, as well as a materials shortage, and it's going to accelerate. And CUDs will require greater support and technical assistance as the complexity grows. To be clear, some CUDs are in very, very different stages of maturity and sophistication. Some have been operating ISPs all the way to some that have just been formed in the last 6 months and are just understanding the charge that they have. It will be important to meet them where they are with the support they need to be able to execute on the front lines of this plan. The draft plan recommends a framework for funding broadband deployment based on the legislation that was in process. And we think that there is good alignment on the major principles. Funding should be prioritized for CUDs where CUDs exist. We do believe that means that CUDs are then obligated to find a way to connect or provide an opportunity to connect to every on-grid premise within their district, and that CUDs do still need to apply for funding. It can't just be a check that is written. There needs to be an approach where a statewide perspective can be involved in making sure that there is accountability and the proper amount of support, because no one wants to have a CUD trying to build something that they don't have the resources to actually execute on. This is meant to be a collaborative effort to support the CUDs, but there does need to be a multiple phase process for accessing those resources in our view. We also have some what we believe are the recommended requirements for receiving funding and the ways that funding should be prioritized. And those are different things. So we did recommend that if you're going to spend this kind of public dollars on building broadband, you should be building the future-proof broadband, which is the fiber 100 over 100 megabit per second that meets the state goals. And you need to have, plans for meeting safety and resiliency standards, as well as reaching the last mile of the districts in question, and that building networks that can support future public good services like mobile broadband expansion and public safety. We want to make sure that this is done in a thoughtful way, thinking forward several years, and in fact, in this draft plan, the entire decade. And then there's some things that should be prioritized, including public-private partnerships, as well as other kinds of values like not having data caps or transparent pricing and other kinds of things. We're not saying that should be a requirement. We do think, though, it should be prioritized, and we want to make sure that there is the tools available for CUDs to be able to negotiate those or to work those into their plans where possible. There are some additional recommendations that the state is recommended to prioritize, including the scalability to symmetrical gigabit and beyond, public safety, voice over IP and redundancy, and avoiding remote host isolation, which we don't think is actually additive to a long-term process, as well as making sure that there's the potential for expanding cell service, which we all know is important, either through small cells or larger cells. It is probably not a good idea to predicate funding on open access or net neutrality. Again, CUDs can negotiate these with providers as long as they're looking carefully at the risk-reward calculus, whether it's for on the basis of potential litigation, as well as making sure that there is preserving local control. So there are these other kinds of recommendations that we are that we believe are important for CUDs to make sure they have the expertise as they're doing this work. And I know a lot of CUDs are starting to do RFPs very quickly to try to get ahead of the curve. But it is important for the state to invest in supporting CUDs in this planning and negotiation, whether it's technical support from state agencies or it's providing the resources to do it. These are going to be complex projects, and if there is public-private partnerships, it's going to be with sophisticated corporations, and we want to make sure that they are going into these well-equipped to do right by the communities that they are representing. There is, though, a 10-year time horizon to this plan, and it is beyond just this massive infrastructure build that we all, I think, believe is important, and we want to make sure that we make broadband available, but also accessible and affordable. And so we have a strong recommendation that CUDs, after we get through the snake swallowing the large mouse process of doing this infrastructure, that there is a support of their ability to provide assistance to individuals and community organizations that work with folks who are less likely to be able to avail themselves of broadband technologies and the benefits, to be able to help with training, provide access to devices for those who can't afford those, and provide the digital skills that can be in a variety of capacities, whether just keeping your own resources secure, all the way through to being able to be a user of telehealth tools, teleeducation, and remote work tools. And this is a long-term benefit that the CUDs can provide to the states. So we did, of course, look at mobile broadband and did a propagation analysis on mobile broadband in the state. And it was very interesting to see what the modeling shows as coverage. This is the map that we were able to derive from the data set of known towers and assets deploying, and it doesn't tell necessarily a great story about mobile connectivity. Addresses that are covered indoors as well as addresses covered outdoor. But a couple of notes with this is, one, it doesn't include New Hampshire-based towers. So it may be under reporting along the Connecticut River. But it also doesn't include people who are able to access cell service over the broadband they have in their home. And as many people know, the ability to get high-speed internet in their home tends to equal the ability to get mobile connectivity through that same bandwidth. So to the extent that we can continue to increase broadband going to homes, it does solve at least the indoor covered challenges, but certainly not the outdoor in the many sections of the state that just have no connectivity. And obviously there are safety as well as convenience challenges to that. This is a breakdown of the mobile broadband coverage along roadways. Not that we're recommending people to use their cell phones while driving, but it is a convenience, but perhaps more importantly, a safety issue. That a individual who is pulled over on the side has pulled over on the side of the road because of a malfunction, being able to call for help, particularly late at night, is super important. So we felt it was a good set of metrics to show where there is, coverage for mobile voice. Our Class 1 roads are actually doing pretty well, although certainly not perfect. But as you get into Class 2 and Class 3 roads, the coverage diminishes dramatically. So you can see those numbers here and why there continues to be an emphasis and a concern that we don't have adequate mobile coverage in our state. Our recommendation that we actually shared in an earlier concept paper, if there was funding that was allocated as part of the ARPA resources or other resources for cellular connectivity, how the state could go about utilizing those resources in an efficient way. And we think there would be a lot of interest to be able to provide greater cell service, but it's going to take some subsidy to be able to encourage those providers to either use small cell technology or larger towers to be able to deploy those kinds of that kind of capacity. So we set up, as you will see here, a mechanism for an RFP to be able to encourage providers to come to the table and what kind of parameters to put around that kind of a funding offering if the state so chose to go down that route in order to solve the cell coverage challenge. Public safety was part of the charge, and we certainly did not ignore it. We did a number of interviews with folks in public safety. I'm not going to go into all the details here, but we have some clear recommendations on the on what should be done to ensure that we have safer systems. Overall, the public safety telecommunication system in Vermont is in pretty good shape compared to other places, but obviously it needs to be, can always be improved. But the biggest challenge that we heard was a lack of broadband and cell phone access, which is usually the origination for these calls for help, much less individuals who are on the front line who are trying to make connections when they're in a place where there's no cell coverage, even from their cars. So there is certainly a need, but it overlaps tremendously with other consumer-based and business-based infrastructure needs. A particular call out was in the description of the plan that we were to provide, which was to talk about the future of public access television channels. We certainly heard loud and clear the high value of PEG channels and stations, particularly in the pandemic. The services that were provided across the state, helping individuals to be able to use technology to stay connected while on quasi-lockdown, and also for communities wanting to get information out in a distributed way, and the willingness to do that work. I was actually town moderator in my town of Heartland, and CCTV it was just fantastic in helping get that virtual meeting out to folks, both through Zoom and through the channel itself. There is we did reference the Berkshire report and say that there are some really interesting recommendations for the ongoing viability of PEG stations as franchise fees start to disappear, as folks are no longer subscribing to traditional cable. But it was not in the scope of our work to do a full legal assessment of some of those recommendations. But even in our conversations with the authors, they absolutely said that there is some legal risk, as well as the need for additional tax analysis before executing on any or all of those recommendations. And we would agree that there is legal risk to some of these, and some test cases that are happening in other states that might be worth seeing how they roll out before taking a step ourselves. So that's the high-level overview of the 10-year draft telecommunication plan, and we're happy to take any comments. This is not meant to be a question and answer period. It's more we're taking comments from the public, and we would certainly welcome any that anyone on the line has.
Thank you, Matt. Looks like we still have only one guest, so if there are no questions, we can adjourn. If there are comments to be made, let's hear them. Anyone have a public comment? Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much, Matt and group from RISI. We appreciate your effort on the plan. And like I said, we will reschedule for an evening time, I think later next week, to boost the participation and get some additional feedback.
Great.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.